I'm in need of a wide receiver one.
First off,
I'm in need of a wide receiver
First
one.
off, I'm going to be trading for Derrick Henry, so y'all can chill out. We're going to make something happen with Najee first.
Possibly.
Is Najee enough to get back for Derrick Henry? What's up, guys? We are back here in the Barbers United Fantasy Football League to do our second of a two-part series here of our mid-season review. Today we have my man Blake and Hunter right here to join us. If you guys watched the first one, we are going to do pretty much the same exact style. We're going to talk about how the first half of the year has went. We're going to start with draft night and our strategies going into there. We're going to talk about the first half of the season, and then we're going to talk about looking forward, give some predictions, and talk about our team and how we feel about them. So, guys, let's just get this thing started right away. How are you guys feeling about your team overall? We're going to go down through some of the numbers, but overall feelings about the first half of the season. Any thoughts?
I'll start. I'm really happy with my team. Coming out of the draft, I felt pretty positive with my team. I was very happy with the players I got, and so far, so good.
So far, so good. So that's perfect. I'm going to start this video the same way we started the last one. We're going to look at the standings, and we're going to give out some awards, okay? So I'll read the standings. We'll put them up on the screen here. We have currently in first place and blessing us with his presence today, Blake Morgan, Saquad Squad. Number 2, Trap Daddy Thatcher. Number 3, Book of Mormoms. Number 4, Josh Turley. Number 5, Village Idiots. Number 6, Hunter Ford. Number 7, Sam I Am in 8th. Number 9, Shuts. 10, Braden. 11, PD the Great. And 12, To Infinity and Beyond. So guys, let's give out some awards. Who do you guys have as your biggest surprise this year so far? Somebody that you guys did not see doing as well as they have done at this point in the season.
I'll start. Hunter's my biggest surprise. I think he would agree. Coming out of the draft, he probably didn't do what he maybe came in to do, and so far he's kind of killed the waiver wire, made some good trades, and I think he's sitting in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, and that will kind of bring us to the next award we'll do, which is manager of the mid-year. Last video we talked about this, and I gave him a tie between actually both of you for managers of the mid-year. Blake has been ultra efficient in who he's starting and getting the maximum points possible, and Hunter with his draft strategy as well. First time doing an auction draft, spending a lot of it on his starting lineup, and then having to pick up from his bench and do a lot of trading, wheeling and dealing, hitting the waiver wire, and being able to put himself in a position for the playoffs, I think was great. So both of you would be my ties for manager of the mid-year. Do you guys have someone else that you want to nominate for manager of the mid-year?
I mean, I think draft-wise, Blake for sure. I mean, he just drafted such a good overall team. Even guys you would think, like Ramondre Stevenson coming out wasn't a high draft pick. I mean, I don't know how much he spent for him, but probably not a lot. He's come out and had a great year. He spent $7 on him.
And Blake's going to be humble here, and he's probably not going to say anything about himself. But yes, like what I was saying, so you can look at the standings, and you can organize it by points scored, and you can also organize it by max points scored. So if you had started the best possible outcome every week, what is the max points you could have scored? Blake's is the closest throughout the whole season, and he is within 70 points of his max points. So almost always starting the right players, and that is key in fantasy football. You can have great players on your roster, but if you don't know when to start, where to start, that could be the downfall. That's the difference in one win or one loss. And I want to talk about this too, because we talked about it a little bit last night. People were talking about Hunter dropping Dak Prescott, and people were like, how did Hunter drop Dak Prescott? How could he? But if you actually look at this is crazy. I don't know if you even know this, but Dak Prescott last week only scored 12 points, right? You picked up Jimmy Garoppolo and played Jimmy Garoppolo. He scored 16. Your matchup last week, you won by only 3 points. Had you kept Dak Prescott and played him, you would have actually lost that matchup to Lucas. So even though some people say, oh, he dropped Dak Prescott, you got 1 week's win out of that, and that's almost way more important, especially where you're at sitting at 4-3, where you're teeter-tottering between making the playoffs, missing the playoffs. 1 win at the end of the season could be absolutely huge. So let's get into your guys' teams. Let's talk about it. We're going to go ahead and start with draft night. I want you guys to talk about kind of your strategy, what you thought going in. Neither of you had ever done an auction league before, right? First time ever. And so what was your guys' strategy going in? What do you wish you would have known back then? And what was your kind of idea on your roster building? So let's go ahead. Let's start with Blake here. You got some absolute steals. We had Hunter bring up Ramondre Stevenson that you got for $7, and he is currently the number 8 running back on the year. That is insane. Absolutely great value. You also got Jalen Hurts for only $8, and he has been a top 5 quarterback. He's had some great weeks. Absolute steals for under $10. So what was your mindset? How did you feel leaving draft night?
Going into the draft, my number one goal was to get 2 good quality running backs. That was my number one goal. I know running backs in the NFL that score high in fantasy are limited, so that was my number one priority. So I started out with Najee. I think he was my first back I took. I spent $56 on him. And then I took Saquon. I got him for $40, and I still think that was a steal. I think he's well worth the $40 I spent. And like you said, Stevenson, I got him for a bargain too, and he's panned out really well for me. So I think I definitely won the running back draft.
And so, Hunter, we can talk about your strategy now here. You did only draft your starting lineup, and then you had to go, and then you left it a little bit in my hands, and I did draft you Dak Prescott, but you pretty much just had a starting lineup to start the season. And was that planned, or was that just a little bit of, I've never done this before, I started spending money, and then all of a sudden it was gone? What were your thoughts? How did you feel leaving draft night with only half of the team?
Really, I'd never done the auction, also a 12-man. I think I've always done like 8 or 10, so I'm like, everybody's paying $50 for these guys. I'm like, they're overpaying. Let's just wait and get a bunch of like mid-tier Keenan Allens, like the guys that are, 15, 20, they're going to be out.
Yeah.
But those studs go quick when you got 12 guys that all have $200.
Yep.
And they went pretty quick, and then I kind of started panicking, and then had to leave with a little bit of money in my bank too. So I think just the trades have kind of kept me in this. I think I'm bottom tier if I don't get Devontae Adams and Henry, but
Definitely. So if in the future you guys ever are in another auction draft, would you both say like, there's definitely some things I would change? Is there one thing specific that maybe one of you have that you say, man, I would definitely change this going into another auction style draft?
I'm definitely getting at least 2 to 3. I mean, you can spend up $50 on 2 to 3 studs. I mean, you can get 3 of those guys, and then $50. You've got 50 left for a quarterback, tight end. Yeah. And then your bench, just try to find some steals.
What I noticed in the draft was, those final 3 or 4 rounds for those of us that stuck around, people were going for $3 and $4 consistently, and you could have built your bench with that $50 left over. If you would have went into your bench with $25-$30, you would have been fine. And I finished the draft with $43 or something, and it was like, well, I can't take it home with me. It does me no good at this point. Yeah. So I think definitely going into next year, everyone will be much more experienced, and it may change a little bit, but the fact that, you probably do want to spend a little more money than you think people are worth right at the beginning. So let's get into the first half of the season, and let's see how we're feeling. We'll go to Hunter first here. Hunter, you are currently on the borderline of making the playoffs. You're currently in 6th place at 4-3, so you got to feel good about that. But also, one thing I've noticed with you, Hunter, is that while you're 4-3, that's actually your team playing above expectations, because you are currently 10th in points scored. So really not scoring a ton of points, but somehow getting wins. So you got to feel good about those wins. Is that kind of your mindset, or what are you thinking about how your first half of the season went? Are you excited that you're 4-3, or are you more like nervous that you haven't scored as many points as you probably should have?
I'm definitely happy I'm in the playoff picture, but I 100% agree. I mean, my points against are pretty low too. My points scored are really low. I think I've just gotten good matchups on good weeks, and sometimes fantasy is just really lucky. I mean, I'm happy. I think I've avoided the haircut, but it's not for sure. But my team's kind of slowly, I've got injuries. Keenan Allen's never played 1 week pretty much, and now Breece Hall is out, so I have one running back.
And you talk about luck playing a factor. It is crazy. It's the way fantasy football is, and people can complain, but it's all about getting a win.
It is.
Your highest points scored, you scored 135 points or something in like week 4. You lost that game. So it's like, even you play good and you lose, then you play bad and you win.
Last week I scored 90 something and somehow pulled it out.
Yeah, so it's like, that's the way it goes sometimes. Wins are wins. You can look at the points, you cannot. But I think that the points total can give you a better idea of moving forward.
Yeah,
you
and
know
it can
what I'm
catch
saying?
up with you.
Yes,
That's
it can catch up with you.
You
So
only
you
get
want
one
to
so long.
keep an eye on that. But hey, your team has done it. You're in the playoffs. That's something that I cannot say. So I envy you in that regards. Now, we both envy, and everyone in the league is envying this man right here, Blake. He has been uber consistent. He has not been number one the entire season. We had Lucas on the show last week. Marcos has been up there as well. But Blake has been uber consistent. One thing that can be said about him and Marcos is they don't have those lows. Blake, I noticed you have only had 1 week where your team did not score 100 points, which is insane. Only 1 week to not go under 100. The only person better than that was Marcos, who has not had 1 week. So that shows why you guys are up there at the top, because you don't just have those highs and then those lows. You guys are very consistent, and you've been very efficient in that realm. So how do you feel about it? You're currently number 1, the only team with 1 loss. You're pretty much guaranteed to not get a haircut at this point.
Yeah.
But you're not worried about that because you're worried about getting a championship and getting a ring. So how do you feel about your team's first half of the season?
I feel really good. You know, like you said, the big thing for my team has been consistency. They haven't had, you know, the big scoring numbers like a Lucas or Marcos. They've had, you know, I think they've been above 200. I haven't had that, but I've been consistently around 130, 140. Sometimes I've been in the 160 range a couple times, and I think that's been the biggest key for me so far, is that my team has been consistent. I know what I can get out of my guys, and I know, you know, like you said, I know when to play them. So I think that's been key for me so far.
Anything can happen going into the second half of the season. So how are you guys feeling? Blake, we'll talk about you. You have been very consistent, but do you worry come playoff time that maybe if your team doesn't have those highs, you could get upset in one of those first rounds of the playoffs? Are you making any moves? Last night we talked about some trade talks. We had Braden and we had Schutz. They were doing some trades and some talks on the channel, and they actually ended up making that trade, which we'll talk about next week. But they actually ended up making a trade. So are there some trades? How do you feel about your second halves? And most importantly, you have Najee Harris, who you spent the most money on, and he has underperformed, and that is not even the right word to be used for that. Like that, he's done even worse than that. So what are you going to do with Najee Harris first off?
I'm definitely looking to trade him. He's been consistent in the sense that he's got consistently 10, 12, 13 points. But I spent 56. He was my highest player that I bought. So I was expecting, you know, let's get in the 20s, let's get in the high teens, and that just hasn't been the case so far. He's definitely struggled. So yeah, I'm definitely looking to trade him. And you know, like you said, my team has been consistent. I am looking to win a championship. I think I have a team that can compete for it. But you know, there's a possibility that if they don't be consistent, I could get upset early. You know, my one loss was to Josh Hurley, and my team didn't perform. Like you said, that was my 1 week where I had less than 100 points. So if they're not consistent, they don't perform, I definitely, you know, I could get upset.
So looking to move Najee.
Yeah.
Now, your other running back is Saquon Barkley, who didn't have the expectations that Najee had, but has overperformed and has done great. Now, is Barkley someone that you have trust in to continue that the rest of the season? Or is he someone that you're like, maybe I sell high on? What are your thoughts on Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, right now he's untouchable.
Okay.
I really, I had high hopes for him coming this season. I thought he was going to have a big bounce back year, and it's paid off for me. I took a gamble, and yeah, right now he's the number 2 running back in the league, so I'm very happy with what he's done for me so far.
So let's go to Hunter over there. Let's talk about your team. And the biggest question for you is, what are you doing with the loss of Breece Hall? That is just absolutely terrible. He looked like he was a young stud that was ready to take over and be maybe the running back 1 in all of fantasy. In dynasty leagues especially, people were loving him. He looked good. He breaks off a 60-yard run in that game, and then he's gone. And especially for someone like you, who we've already talked about your draft strategy and not having a ton of depth, he was one of your young stars that was a sleeper that you took a shot on that was playing great, and to lose someone like that gotta be devastating, man. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? Where's your head at with losing Breece Hall?
Yeah, it definitely hurts. I mean, I liked him before the season. I thought he'd have a big role. It seemed like early in the year, like Michael Carter and them were kind of split, and it was like the last few weeks he was slowly taking over, having big runs, big plays. I paid a good amount for him too. I don't know why. I just really liked him. I don't know. Everything's about to change. I'm trying to get trades. Everybody, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, go for it. I just need running backs, maybe 2 for 1.
So what are you looking for, you've sent out a lot of trades. You're trying to make some things happen.
Mm-hmm.
What are you eyeing for the guys in the league that are watching this right now, what do you need in return to take a Derrick Henry or a Devontae Adams
Just
off
take
your
one of my
roster?
studs
Because
and
I
give
am
me
in
two
need of a
decent
wide.
running backs.
I am in need of a wide receiver one.
First off,
I'm in need of a wide receiver
First
one.
off, I'm gonna be trading for Derrick Henry, so y'all can chill out. We're gonna make something happen with Najee first.
Possibly.
Is
Let me see.
Najee enough to get back for a Derrick Henry?
Not by
just
himself, not by himself.
Okay, but is that a starting piece?
It's just, I mean, it's a piece, but it's like a 50% piece.
So what do you need back?
I don't know. I don't have to look at it.
You
But
need-
like you say, you need that. You know, you don't want Terry McLaurin anymore. Like, okay, get Derrick Henry, and then you can put. You've got a third running back in there. You can.
I
Put
don't though.
Aaron Jones, Mostert, put in Henry, and then you've got who do you have on your bench?
I don't have enough to lose Aaron Jones. I don't
Oh,
need it.
Antonio
I
Gibson?
want Devontae Adams.
He wants-
That's
I want
mine.
Henry.
I want Devontae Adams.
I'll give you Adams.
Yes.
I just
Devontae Adams. So
I
what do
need
you
Derrick
need in
Henry.
return for Devontae Adams?
So you give him Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones and
but I can't lose Aaron Jones and not
I'll
get
give you
him.
Najee.
you're a Steelers fan.
I am a Steelers
That
fan.
sounds like it'll work.
But then where it's going back to him.
He's getting Aaron
Three ways.
Jones, and I'll give you Gallup and Singletary.
Aaron Jones, but then he's not. So you would give up
He's just giving up Devontae and Derrick Henry.
for Aaron Jones,
And
Singletary, and Gallup. I don't think that's enough.
Oh, you're getting Najee right.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. He's
okay.
got to get
Sorry.
Najee.
Oh, yeah, that's.
So we'll talk about
We'll
this.
figure something
We'll
out.
talk about this a little more. We'll update you guys. But you are very much wanting Derrick
I
Henry.
want Derrick Henry.
He is looking to get rid of Derrick Henry and Devontae Adams. I like Devontae Adams. But what you're saying is you're willing to separate those guys for maybe a couple of pieces
Really,
that are
anything's
close.
available. I'm not like locked. If for the value, I'm not locked on anybody. But I
Yes.
just need a second running back. So if
Yes.
it's Derrick Henry,
Now-
I need two half decent running backs.
Now-
like two Najee Harrises, if they're for example.
Yes. Okay.
Um,
So you're looking more for depth necessarily.
Yeah, I just
Obviously,
need running back
still
depth.
you still want star caliber players. You're not trying to drop too far, but you
Yeah, I wanna stay
you
in
need
it.
guys that are starters.
But I don't have a starting running back. So
Yeah, so
I
you
mean,
need some depth. So
even
there's
Devontae Adams for a stud running back. I mean,
like Aaron Jones.
Like Aaron
I don't know if
Jones.
Aaron Jones is much of a
Okay,
stud.
we'll talk about it. My other question for you, Hunter, was the quarterback carousel that you're currently running. We talked about you dropping Dak Prescott, who most people would look at as a starting quarterback, and it paid off for you week one. But now you're into a territory where you're starting Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're starting Jared Goff, and you're starting potentially Geno Smith this week. Are you fine with riding this quarterback carousel for the second half of the season, or are you looking to get somebody that can be a quarterback that you can play every single week?
You know,
Not Trevor Lawrence.
I just don't think my team is has enough depth right now to trade for a quarterback. I don't mind the swapping quarterback. Look at the matchups. If you actually look last week, I had Jared Goff in my lineup on Sunday, and for some reason I took him out for ground. I was like,
That was very
Jimmy,
smart.
I was
because
like,
you
Jimmy
would've
G.
lost. I said this in the other video. Antonio Gibson is available. If you like Antonio Gibson,
I don't hate him, but I don't. We'll figure it out.
Maybe he can
We're gonna
be
make a
that.
trade happen before the
Maybe
night's
make something
over.
happen. We're gonna make it happen. I want you guys to give me your predictions for these three categories: a champion, last place, and an underdog pick. Someone that's not in the top 6 but will be. We had, I believe, Lucas picked himself. Lucas said, "Why not?" Because why not? Why can't Lucas win? Lucas has been number 1 in the league for the majority of the year. It would not shock us. I think Schutz took Marcos, Braden took Blake, and then I took Marcos as well. So Hunter, who do you have as your predicted champion of the league?
I'm gonna kind of just piggyback off you. It's Lucas or Marcos in my opinion. I think Marcos' team is better right now because he's got guys who are playing so like Eno Benjamin. I mean Jacobs is blown up and he was probably cheap. Olave is probably a top 10 wide receiver if he keeps doing what he's doing. Diggs, Jefferson. I like his team more, but I feel like Lucas, man, he's always in the waiver wire digging deep. And when I feel like late season and more people get hurt, I feel like that can really help. So it's in between them two. Obviously Blake's up there too. He's got a really good team. But
Give one. Give us your one prediction.
I'm gonna
Who you
go
got?
Marcos. I'm
Go
gonna go Marcos.
Marcos?
I just think his team's really good right now. But
Blake, who you got?
I'm gonna go with Lucas. I'm not gonna jinx myself. I'm gonna go with Lucas. And I don't think Lamar's gonna play bad all season long. I think DeAndre Hopkins was a big boost for his team. He's got really talented players. His team is, I mean, he's got Cooper Kupp. I mean, Nick Chubb is gonna get going here. I just think he's got a talented team that scores a lot of points, and I think he's gonna go the distance.
Definitely. Last place. Who do we think is going to get the haircut by whoever wins this champion? And I talked about a little bit about Phillip, right? Phillip is kind of fallen down just because of injuries, and it stinks because he's been a great manager. He's doing a good job at putting a team out there that can compete every single week, even though he's been ravished by those injuries. But I said I don't want Phillip to get last place because I don't think he would be a fun person to get a haircut. And I'm looking at it from who is going to be the funniest person to get a haircut. And envisioning Phillip, there's not much you can do because he already takes it pretty short all the way around. So not much more you can do there. So I don't want Phillip to get a haircut for that reason alone. So who do you guys have your prediction as last place in getting that haircut that nobody wants?
I think Phillip's team is going to bounce back. I think Phillip comes back and that might be a sleeper for the playoffs.
Okay.
ETN being the number one guy now, Swift coming back. I think he's got a really good team. I'm scared that the Barber might be getting a haircut because your your team right now is scaring me. I'm trying to look at every team and it's making me nervous.
Blake, who do you have?
That makes me
Pick me
nervous
up a
for
little
I
bit.
got Jacob. I'm gonna. First off, you're gonna get Devontae Adams tonight, so your team's gonna get a
Right,
boost.
you're right.
That is true. If you trade with me, maybe not.
that's his stance. He's like, bro, you're gonna get last place if you don't trade it.
Yeah,
there you go. I like that because now you scared me. Now I am gonna. Who do you want? You want Aaron Jones and Kyler Murray? No,
Whatever.
Let's go.
But
Who do you have?
I think he's too far down he's dug himself a hole. He's 1-6. Phillip, like he said, his team's starting to get healthy. I don't think Phillip's team is bad. I really don't. I just think he's had some bad breaks. Juju's starting to play good. I mean, like he said, Swift's back. ETN's now the number one guy. Jacob, I just think he's too far back. Jacob's my pick.
It is. It's tough now. He lost that matchup to Braden to get that 1 game lead above, where now he doesn't only have to win 1 week, he may have to win multiple weeks and hope other people are losing. But just 1 game out of it, I don't think he's completely gone. And I will say this, Jacob currently, if you do look at just the points alone, he's scored the 8th most points. So he has had some bad matchups. He's turned it around. He's doing better. He's had a ton of points scored against him. He really doesn't probably deserve to be in last place, but like we said, all that matters is record at the end of the day, and luck does play a factor into that. And when you're in the spot that he is, you got to dig yourself out. So let's do underdogs. You talked a little bit about Phillip, so I'm not sure if that's going to be your pick here, but give us somebody not currently in the top 6, but that will be. Blake, you go first. Who's your underdog? Not in top 6, but will be in the season.
I'm gonna stick with you, and I'm gonna stick with the fact that you're gonna get Devontae tonight because we're gonna make a trade. But I think you're gonna slide up in the playoffs. I think your team's finally hitting their stride. Last week they had a really good week.
So if I make this trade for Devontae, I'm in the playoffs, and if I don't, I'm getting last place.
I said that, and you have scored more points than me, so maybe I'm the one that should be getting a haircut. I don't know. I think
So,
you scored more.
Give me your underdog pick.
I like Braden's team.
You like Braden?
Dalvin
Okay.
Cook, Kenneth Walker, Debo.
He did just make a trade yesterday.
He did make a trade.
So let's talk about that trade
Jerry
real quick
Jeudy's on
here.
the bench.
Do you have the trade pulled up? Can someone pull the trade up real quick? I've got my screens maximized.
I've got it right here. Schultz
Okay.
and Braden.
Schultz and Braden made a trade. They were talking about it a little bit in the video. It did go through shortly after the video ended. So what was the trade?
So Schultz sent Braden T. Higgins and Robert Tonyan, and then Braden sent Schultz, Donta Foreman, Henderson from the Rams, Darrell Henderson, and Deontay Johnson from the Steelers.
How do you guys feel about that? So looking at that, they were talking about this a little bit on the video, and T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson being the 2 main points. I think for Schultz really wanted some more running back help. He wasn't feeling good about his running backs, and he already had CeeDee Lamb, so he could take a little bit of a loss at his wide receiver, and Braden really wanted T. Higgins. He throws in Darrell Henderson. I think that was one of the main points beforehand. Braden was trying to give Deontay Johnson and Gus Edwards for T. Higgins.
Okay.
And it turned into that. So how do you guys feel that negotiations went? And if you had to give grades or you had to pick a side, who do you think won?
I mean, I'm a little salty because I sent such a Schultz a trade and he never looked at it or responded, but that's besides the point. If this is possible, I think they both kind of won the trade for what they needed. I think Braden didn't really need those backs, and he kind of replaced Deontay Johnson with T. Higgins, which I think is a big win for him. Mm-hmm. And then Schultz got the depth that he needed. So I think, in a way, they kind of both won for what they were looking for.
Yeah, we talked about Braden's team. Braden's team was what I deemed running back university at the time. He had a ton of running backs, so he had to get off of some of them. He improves at wide receiver. Schutz improves at running back. They're both 2-5. It's the time to make a move, right? You can't hold pat any longer. It's trade season. There are trades flying
Maybe
around.
they're happy
People need to
though.
make
Maybe
some
they're
moves.
happy.
It's the mid-season. You go all in, like he said. He's got a championship roster. It's time to go all in and try to win. And if you're at the bottom, you got to turn things around. You can't just hope that things are just magically going to get better, because 9 times out of 10, they don't. So
Take some risks.
make some trades, take some risks. Let's see what happens. Excited to see the second half of the season. Like we said, it is completely up in the air. Anybody can win this league. Anybody can make the playoffs. Let's make this push and let's have a good time. So appreciate you guys for coming on here. I did have one question for Hunter. We talk about trades, and one that got brought up a lot a couple weeks ago was a trade that you made with Lucas, and I want to know your thoughts behind it, because it was right after Javonte Williams went down, and you had Melvin Gordon, who people were like loving at the time. He was going to be the running back one. He was the future. And then you turn around and trade him that week after for Nyheim Hines, who Jonathan Taylor was out, but there was no one thought that John Taylor was going to be out for the rest of the season. So a lot of people saw that trade, and they were coming in here and they were like, man, I can't believe Hunter made that trade. What was he thinking? Why did he give up Melvin Gordon? So we have you here. I just wanted to ask, what were your thoughts when you made that trade?
I really don't know. At the time, I watched the game, so I don't know why I thought, I didn't realize he was out, the Denver's RB1, was it
Yeah.
Williams? I didn't realize he was out for a season. I thought he was just hurt, and then I knew John Taylor was hurt, so I'm like, oh, see if I can get Hines, and he accepted it. I was like, why did he accept that? And then I realized, the other guy's out for a season. I'm like, I was like, well, that sucks. That screwed me.
Fair enough.
And then they ended up both.
They ended up both not doing anything, so it really was irrelevant, right?
It
You have
was.
Melvin
Now
Gordon.
Jacob has them both.
Jacob has both of them
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, 90 miles was on the waiver wire today, so that ended up not being. I guess he got a player.
It didn't matter either way,
It didn't
but
matter
yeah.
much. But
at
yeah,
the time,
that was just.
you just didn't know.
I was one of those guys that questioned the
Were you
trade.
one of the- yeah, I feel like
I questioned it the next day.
I was like, dude, there's like one of two options here. Either A, he just didn't know that Javonte Williams was out
I knew
for
he
the
was out.
entire
Yeah.
season,
That's understandable.
or he thought Jonathan Taylor was out for the entire season. Like there's one
Hines
of two
just, I
options.
feel like when he plays, he gets a lot of
He does.
receptions.
He does.
And I
Yeah.
felt like when Taylor's out, he's going to put up 20.
How do you guys feel about Matt Ryan being benched for Sam Elliott?
I think it's the right move.
He's just not done anything.
His arm is dead. Like he just doesn't have any.
Dude, I feel like it's also like, I feel bad. I like Matt Ryan, so maybe I'm
I
just
like him
biased,
too,
but
but I
like
think-
I feel like it's that offensive line is not like you think of the Colts, you think of run game and offensive line, and it's not been there this year.
That's
I
another
feel
thing.
like-
Jonathan Taylor's been disappointing this year.
Yeah.
Other than week one, he hasn't.
I don't
he
think
hasn't
it's
topped
all
more
on
than
Matt
16.
Ryan. I don't know how he comes back from this or how another team gives him a chance, but like I feel kind of bad.
It's definitely not all on
Yeah.
him. It's tough.
Thank you guys for coming on. I know I had talked about doing like half the league and half the league. We did it last night with the other guys, and there was 3 of them, so 4 of us total, and it actually was like an hour-and-a-half long video, so it was way too long. I had to trim it up and cut up a ton of it. So I was like, let's maybe just go with 2 other guys for this one, and then it will kind of meet our time frame that we like. So appreciate you guys coming on, giving you guys evenings, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.